making his SBJ Sports Media podcast debut, and doing so from jolly old England, NFL Network's first talent hire and long host of the Rich Eisen Show, which is now on Roku and SiriusXM, Rich Eisen. Rich, thanks for joining the SBJ Sports Media pod.
You bet. Why did it take so long to be invited to the SBJ?
I'm going to blame the previous host on that. We have wanted
Rand,
you on
we're
here.
going to
The
blame
new
John.
administration have wanted
Kick
you on
him
for
right in the puck. Kick him right in the puck. All right. I'll blame him.
I'm a big friend of John Oran, so I will not talk badly about him. But yeah, we have wanted you on.
Okay. Well, here I am.
Here you are. Rich, like we said, you're in London for the NFL games last weekend and this coming weekend. You called Jets Vikings this past Sunday, Jags Bears also this coming Sunday from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I got to say, I'm impressed you were still up at midnight UK time, Sunday night, tweeting about all the action still going on stateside. But we're almost 2 decades now into the NFL, playing regularly in London. What was the atmosphere like at Tottenham for this Jets-Vikings matchup?
Awesome. I love calling games here, man. There's no atmosphere like it. There's 32 teams represented in the stands. It's like the United Nations. The fans are very knowledgeable. Obviously, there's tons of expats who are living here in the UK, so there's a lot of Americans there, but the Brits know exactly what's going on the field. There's no weirdly timed applause. It's all attuned. It's just like any crowd in the United States, except for the fact that there's a lot more chanting and singing and things of that nature. It's just a blast. I love it. I cherish every opportunity I get to be here calling these games, and I'm already looking forward to the next one this coming week with the Bears and the Jags.
You're also back in Germany next month for, I guess, a thrilling, we'll call it, Giants-Panthers matchup.
Careful now. The Giants just beat the Seahawks.
They
look
pull
pretty
it off
stout doing it.
I didn't see that coming.
That's right. With no Malik Neighbors, no Devin Singletary. I mean, that was one of those surprising, gutty survivor pool busting wins right there, man.
That was a head scratcher for sure. I mean, it wasn't.
So let's not,
Alabama,
and the Red Rifle might show up. Andy Dalton could show up. Come on now, let's go. I mean, if I'm on the Sports Media SBJ pod, I'm going to have to talk the game up. And that Munich crowd is awesome. It's great.
You are swapping Frankfurt for Munich this time. I mean, yes. How would you describe the reception in Germany your first go around versus what you've seen in the UK?
It's great. It's just it's a different crowd. Germany is closer to other places in the European continent that potentially somebody would have no problem considering that trip as opposed to London. I've met a ton more people from Northern Africa and the Middle East in the fan bases that showed up in the Germany games. So it's a larger reach. You could make a case that the German NFL fan has been more attuned to the NFL and is more diehard because of it than the London fans. I'm really looking forward to that one too.
All right, Rich. So Germany, the UK, we've also had Brazil this season. Roger Goodell has stated that he'd like an 18-game schedule overseas. Are NFL fans ready to have 9:30 Eastern time games every week?
I think so. All of my friends are fired up about it. They love it, and I live in LA. People getting up 6:30 in the morning and turning on a football game. People with kids were getting up, and to be able to pop on a football game, I think is awesome. And I think a lot of fans would relish that. Certainly on the East Coast as well. So, I think that's where this is going. It would be very difficult to have a full-time franchise over here in Europe. It would be really tough. It would be a competitive disadvantage for a team to come from the United States and play a team that is used to the time zone for weeks beforehand. It would be a competitive disadvantage for a team in London, for instance, going to the United States and playing games on the road. They wouldn't be able to be flying back and forth. I imagine they'd give them 2, if not 3 road games in a row. They'd have to set up shop in one geographically sound location to travel to the other spots. You'd have to tell players, hey, guess what? You're drafted. You're now moving to Europe. Or, hey, if you want to sign with us, you've got to move your family. There's just a lot of issues with stationing a team, I believe, here. But there's no issues in terms of building a fan base here and basically having an international road show showing off the popularity of the sport in other towns across the globe and different crowds. I think it would absolutely be a smash hit.
Assuming this 18 game foreign schedule does come to fruition,
Yeah.
obviously Europe, as you say, doesn't make sense for a full time team. But what new markets do you think make the most sense for the league?
They probably know better than I would in terms of territories that teams have mined. And, I wouldn't have known until the Munich games that the Patriots were so popular in Germany, and then obviously last year in Frankfurt had noticed the fan base and had heard about how the Patriots were the first team to have a website in German, and that happened over a decade ago. Had no idea. So the NFL would probably know better. I think European locations are what would be the best. I'm sure there are other locations in the Middle East.
The reports, what they're touring Abu Dhabi. That was one of the
Yeah,
reports
that's
out
what we're
there.
hearing about it. So I think those are very feasible.
All right, Rich. Off of Europe for a minute, off of the foreign schedule, I want to talk NFL draft. You've obviously been a part of it for decades now, but did you foresee this event becoming the huge success that it has become for the fans once it left the confines of New York City and hit the road?
Oh, the first minute we stepped outside in a Grant Park in Chicago, which was the first location the NFL held its draft after New York City. The minute I stepped into Grant Park and saw the situation there and what a circus it was, what a convention type atmosphere it was inside the draft hall, but outside it was like a carnival. And the second year, unfortunately, when they went back to Grant Park, it was inclement weather. But the first time it was beautiful. It was Chamber of Commerce Day. And then seeing 100,000 fans on Ben Franklin Parkway leading up to the draft hall made on the Rocky Steps of the Art Museum. I mean, good Lord. Nashville should be in a draft rotation once every 4 years. The scene in Lower Broadway was insane. So right away is how I saw it. Taking it from a 3-day event in New York City every single year, doing the same thing over and over again. Now having it travel around and having cities bid on it like it's a Super Bowl. That was a no-brainer.
Chicago, that's my city. Grant Park is so beautiful.
Unreal. That was unreal.
So, Rich, you started your eponymous sports talk show 10 years ago. What has made it so successful, and why do you think it's such a go-to for sports fans?
I appreciate you using the word successful because 5 years ago, I wasn't really feeling it when I got a call from Dan York of DirecTV and AT&T 2 days before Christmas saying that the Audience Network that birthed my show and placed it after Dan Patrick's was being shuttered. And at the time, HBO Max did not have any fast channels and no plans to have one. So there really wasn't a home for my show and Dan's. And they were very kind in giving me the IP and the radio stations. And I had no idea what to do with it. Zero. No idea what to do with it. I knew it was very valuable, but I had no idea where to go from there. And then COVID hit. And I was just wondering what the hell has happened, because I was building a brand and a show for 4+ years on Audience and DirecTV, and thought that the merger between DirecTV and Time Warner and AT&T and everything would be awesome. And it turned out to be tons of upheaval that I didn't know what to do with.
Mhm.
But putting it all together now, 5 years after that, the show having turned 10, I've owned it for 5 years in a row. My crew and my friends, who I consider them to be as well, that stuck with me, believed in the first 5 years in the show and what it could be. Taking it to a YouTube only show, to Peacock for 2 years, and now my partners at Roku. It's been a crash course on how to run a business. I'm getting my MBA on a fly, using my marketing sensibilities, my CMO-ness of my own DNA, and trying to blend it all together. And that's what I've been doing here in London, talking to Cumulus about the 2 new podcasts that I've launched. O'Shea Jackson Jr. is hosting one of them, and No Contest Wrestling that came out of the chute with a top 10 placement on iTunes on sports.
Nice.
Talking with him about next guests, next moves, next ideas, talking with my crew, talking with my agent at UTA, talking with Joe Francetta at Roku, just constantly working the phones while working my board call on a game. And when I'm done with you here, I'm going to zoom in to do Overreaction Monday, which is another pod that we launched last year, and then zoom into my own show, and then go about my business here, getting ready for Bears Jaguars. So I appreciate you saying it, bringing it up. 10 year, it kind of hit me in the booth calling Jets Vikings. I'm like, wait a minute, October 6th sounds familiar. I'm like, that's right, it's my 10-year anniversary of my show. So like I said, I'm blessed. I'm lucky. I've got the best crew in the business that they've all believed in me, and we've stuck together for as long as we have, and we're growing. And I appreciate you using the word successful and eponymous. I respect that. I salute you for that usage.
Well, I appreciate that. And
Thank you.
also, go Bears. So I'm glad you brought up Roku. So obviously your show is there now,
Yeah.
but how do you see your show as part of the development of their overall sports strategy? And where do you think Roku fits into the sports landscape?
Well, Roku fits perfectly into the sports landscape. I mean, look how everything's moving to streaming, and what better way for you to go ahead and get everything that you need under one roof in one portal than Roku. So, and in terms of where my show stands in Roku's flag planting in the sports world, that's how they approached me well over 2 years ago, when they were talking about creating a sports zone, that they were looking over the steering wheel, seeing down the road streaming becoming more popular. And to be honest with you, getting a little bit frustrated that Roku wasn't being considered a spot for you to see everything in sports when you could. My previous partners in DirecTV were viewed as, hey, if you want to watch sports all in one spot, get DirecTV, and Roku had everything. So they reached out to me wanting to bring my show over and kind of be the main tent pole of the tent that they were building for sports and the sports zone. 2+ years later, in our third year, it's working. I love being part of that. I love being the tip of their spear. And I kind of feel it's a similar setup to what I've had with NFL Network, where the NFL has multiple partners, but its own content. And Roku has multiple partners, but its own content on the Roku channel. And my show is right there in the middle of it, and I love it.
Yeah, we had Joe Franzetta on here, and I was really impressed just with everything they've done, getting those MLB games, what they're able to do with the Olympics and NFL. Just a really good story there for Roku and what they've been able to do in the media, sports media landscape in particular.
Yeah, we've nicknamed him Roku Joe.
Roku Joe, I like
on our set. Roku Joe. He's known, I think, internally as Sports Joe, but we on the Rich Eisen show set, TJ Jefferson, who is co-hosting a pod with O'Shea, nicknamed him Roku Joe, and my guy Brockman's picked it up. My wife Susie, who by the way is putting together a weekly sports show on women's sports. She's the executive producer of that, along with Hello Sunshine, and that's coming to Roku very soon too. So, that's the women's sports zone. They're just building it all out. It's really great to see. And it's each passing year that I'm at their upfronts or their Roku Live event for their partners and some of their agencies and advertisers, I'm hearing sports more and more and more from the podium and from the stage. And like I said, I love being one of the first in for that mission.
I've been at every upfront they've done, and I would agree with you. Sports, and I've seen you on that stage. Sports is becoming more and more of a presence there for Roku. And of women's sports, I've got my Liberty mug right here.
I like it. I like it. We're getting to the nitty and the gritty, huh? I mean, it's and the level of popularity of women's sports, whether it's like my 11-year-old daughter Taylor, who's playing quite a bit basketball, some volleyball. She's into it. To obviously the sports viewership of the W and college basketball, softball. My goodness, that has become a must-see tournament every single summer now. So wanting to make sure that my production company, along with Susie and Hello Sunshine and Roku, it's kind of neat. All together, we're putting this thing together, and you should be hearing more about it shortly.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear. And those Northwestern Wildcats are pretty good at softball.
They are.
Well, Rich, thank you so much for taking the time, and we will let you get back to London. So
I appreciate
thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thanks,
Cheerio.
Rich.
See you later, guys.